we have got Man City against Spurs. Second televised game on Saturday. It's at the Etihad, and I think it's the biggest game of the weekend. The break for City came at an ideal time. They were obviously on a stretch of 4 games, 4 consecutive losses. That actually started against Spurs in the EFL Cup, 2-1 loss at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But they've had some time to sort of rue over their mistakes. I think a 2-week break was absolutely essential for them. In terms of their injury report, it's obviously still quite large, but they have had some key players returning, which is a boost for them. So De Bruyne obviously featured off the bench against Brighton, and he has trained, so I would imagine he starts whenever he can. Foden, Grealish, Akanji and Stones also returned to training after the international break, which is a very big boost for Pep Guardiola. For Spurs, they were beaten just before the break as well. They lost 2-1 to Ipswich at home, which was their 5th league loss in the season. So Spurs sit in 10th, which is underperforming compared to where they were last season at this point. In terms of their injury report, Van de Ven and Romero are both doubtful at the time of recording, so still waiting for information from the press conference, but their sort of availability of those two will be quite big news. Bentancur is also suspended, which means Bissouma should be able to get a start, while Richarlison and Werner are both doubtful on the left wing. Based on that sort of latter information, the first angle for me would be for Son to register a shot on target. And I'll also talk about Brennan Johnson and his price as well. These sides obviously met not too long ago in the EFL Cup, so we can learn sort of a bit about how either team might approach this game. Notably though, Man City did rotate quite a lot in that game, but they did have the majority of possession, 68%, so they sort of played in their regular style. They were just not as effective as they would normally be, so we saw no Haaland, no De Bruyne, for example. But from a Spurs point of view, whenever they play these kind of games where the game will be more transitional, where they will exert less dominance on their opposition, where they have to play more vertical, they're less settled, we see Dominic Solanke operate as more of a facilitator in sort of a Roberto Firmino-esque role. We saw it against City in the EFL Cup, we saw it against Brighton earlier in the season, and if we look into those games, Solanke actually had 0 shots against Brighton and just 1 shot against City, so we can see he's not really the primary focus of attacks. Playing as a facilitator, what he does is he drops deeper and he aims to create chances for the wide players. In this case, it should be Son and Brennan Johnson. So if we look into that game against City, Werner had 4 shots, 2 on target and a goal before being subbed after 70 minutes, and he also had a lot of good chances in that game. And I think if you are to give Son those chances, we could see 2 or even 3 goals. Brennan Johnson similarly had 2 shots, both of which were on target, and he again also played only 70 minutes. In the game against Brighton, Brennan Johnson had 3 shots, 1 on target, which was a goal, while Werner had 2 shots, neither of which were on target. So, assuming Son reclaims his position on the left wing, it should be sort of him and Brennan Johnson that see the best chances for Spurs based on how they should play on the break. So naturally, my sort of attention gravitates towards their shot on target prices. They are both nicely priced with Bet365. Son is 1.9, Brennan Johnson is 2.0, and I think both are a good target. If I had to choose one, I'd probably lean towards Son. The reason being, he obviously recently returned from injury, but he did play that full 90 against Ipswich last time out, so he seems to be at sort of full fitness levels. I would say he has the more secure minutes floor over Brennan Johnson. And he also has a fantastic record against City. He's landed a shot on target in each of the last 6 head-to-head games. So I'd personally be leaning towards Son as the better value shout. But I do also really like Brennan Johnson at evens, obviously the bigger price. I'm going to move over to the opposition now and actually focus on Haaland shot on target. It's a strange price, this one, because it is a buy low spot for City at the moment. Obviously, they're in a sort of poor run of form. But when they are in these kind of forms, we see prices inflate a bit, and we saw that against Brighton when Haaland was priced at 1.8 to score anytime, which we took advantage of. Now his anytime goal scorer price is shortened to 1.66, so a bit too short to back, but his shots on target price has stayed relatively similar, so he's still 1.8 to register 2 or more shots on target. And I think when you get a line like this, it's going to be so rare across the course of the season, and I just think you have to take advantage of it. It's priced at 1.8 despite landing in 13 out of 16 in all competitions this season. He draws a good matchup against Spurs, who are potentially without Romero and Van de Ven. I think Van de Ven is more likely to miss this game. So obviously Haaland should be looking forward to this one. And again, I just think it's one of those where you have to take it. It's Haaland. He's gonna find chances, and he's generally quite efficient with them. Obviously, City have been in a poor run of form, but I think it's an overreaction by having his price this high. In addition to that, De Bruyne was obviously in training, and he did feature off the bench against Brighton just before the break, so he's had enough time to build up his fitness, and because of that, I would imagine De Bruyne starts. Now, as a sort of additional layer of research, if we look into Haaland's output when De Bruyne started at the start of the season, we can see first league game Haaland 1 goal, second he scored a hat-trick, third game he scores a hat-trick, and then a brace against Brentford. So he's clearly a much better striker when De Bruyne plays. I think it makes sense. He is the primary focus. De Bruyne is obviously one of the best creators in world football. So if De Bruyne does start, really like this price and can definitely see the potential to ladder it. Next angle is in regards to City fouls. So I'm targeting a player who started in the last 6 games for City, and that is Matheus Nunes. In starts this season, he's made a foul in 7 out of 8, and he's found some success without sort of Doku and Grealish. He's strung together a sort of more consistent run of games, which has been rare in his City career so far. And his foul prices are decent. He's priced at 1.73 to commit a foul with Paddy Power. Notably though, his only miss was against Spurs in the EFL Cup, which I'll talk about a bit more now. In that game, he was matched up against Archie Gray, who started at right back. Archie Gray has drawn a foul in just 2 out of 6 starts as a Spurs player, so obviously not a good player to target as a matchup. However, Pedro Porro will likely get the start here. He's obviously the regular right back, and he's drawn a foul in 10 out of 13 starts this season in all competitions, so a much better matchup for Matheus Nunes. And especially if City are to dominate the game, as they should with a stronger team at home, you'd imagine sort of Porro in this situation can have a tendency to buy soft fouls, and I think he's a good matchup for Matheus Nunes. If we look into how Nunes played last game against Veltman, obviously we targeted that matchup, and Nunes made 5 fouls out of 10 City fouls in total, so contribute a lot. I think Porro can play a similar role as Veltman in that one. He can be quite a frustrating opponent to play against, and he sees quite a lot of the ball because sees quite a lot of the ball going forward as well. So he's a good player to target to draw a foul. He's actually priced at 1.73 to draw a foul as well, which looks quite good as a single. But my sort of angle of interest is to double the two. So go Nunes foul, Porro to draw a foul, which comes out at 2.68 with Paddy Power, which is pretty big. And we are covered by the super sub rule in case any of them get injured. However, it's worth noting that obviously I mentioned Grealish did train, so he could be in line to start, as Pep Guardiola looks to sort of shake things up a bit following such a poor run of form. If it is Grealish who starts, Porro fouls will probably be the sort of angle of interest for this game. So that's 3 or 4 angles. I think it is a game to be wary of, but it is one of the better games of the weekend to bet on, I would say. So that will conclude the Saturday games. Moving on